So today we are so excited to be here to talk about your new book.
Yes.
You are the author and my husband.
Nice. I like both.
I know.
I like being your husband more, though.
Oh, thank you. So we thought it would be great to just kind of talk about the book, how you got to even writing the book, and just a bunch of things around that. So today we want to just share those things with you, and hopefully you'll learn a little something too about the process of even how we get to the point of writing books.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have the book here, and it's been a long road, right?
Yeah, because it's not only been this past year or so really bringing the book together, which is really fast, actually.
Yeah.
But it's been a lifetime journey, and it seems like every book that I write, it hits more closer to home.
Right.
It feels more vulnerable, more real. Not that the other ones weren't, but it gets into a very specific battleground that a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah, it's been an interesting thing to even watch you in the process of what's the next subject, or because we've been very honest with people that everything that we talk about has been either part of our life, run through our life, an aspect of our. We really want people to understand that we may not know every nuance of your story, but we've been there and we know what you're going through,
Yeah.
and this is not void of that.
Right.
So, and we'll get to that, and part of what, writing this book has been for you personally. But I would like to start with, why did you write this book?
Well, the genesis of this book project was not a smooth start in coming to the conclusion of it. I've been doing a lot of work on OCD and sharing and doing a lot of videos and content on it. And it kind of seemed like the rational thing would be to do a book on it. And I actually was wanting to go a different pathway. I was watching our world changing very quickly, a lot of relationship breakdown, how people relating to one another. I saw the patterns of people being offended, hurt, betrayal, lawless thinking, all this. And I wanted to do something on relationships, kind of a second edition Bitter Free, as I wrote a book called Bitter Free that had some scaffolding of some things, but I wanted to really improve on that. And I found myself wanting to go two things. One, I was really wanting to write about that subject. And two, I was honestly a bit hesitant about diving into the OCD world because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of the emails are long. The work is.
We're not condemning anybody, but wink, wink.
There's a lot involved. There's a lot of spinning. There's a lot of layers that we have to recognize and understand. Not to make it overwhelming, but I was like, I don't know that I want to do that right now because I know a lot of people need this, but they got my videos. So as I began to write this relationship book, the chapter, skeleton was there, but every time I sat down to write it, it was just like I was hitting a brick wall. So I remember even writing to people in my mailing list, our mailing list of, I'm still, pray for me kind of thing. And then I came to terms with, nope, this is needed. I had to take another step in confidence of who I am and what God's put on me because my passion is mental health. And it's like, nope, we got to go there. So that actually birthed, and I started to frame together, what do I want this book to look like? And then I see it like the Mark de Jesus kind of methodology that happened started to unfold, and I felt like, okay, feeling the flow. Okay, I see it. Not that, and when you feel the flow, it doesn't mean it's easy. Everything's just like no resistance, but you gain a sense of like, no, this is where I'm going, and it gave me the clarity that I needed to go. Okay, this is the one, and then it also led into just galvanizing my resolve that we have a strong emphasis on mental health. And we're going to keep doing that.
Right.
And I think there is people say this to me often, Mark, it seems like there's not many people in this space speaking from a pastoral Christian perspective, but, free to talk right into these battlegrounds.
Yeah.
And I agree. So, so that became a big part of the motivation.
Excellent. Okay, well, back to my original opening thought about where all this is like run through our life. Maybe that's not the best way to say it, but a lot of the things we talk about, we want to talk about from an honest place. And in the book, that's basically the beginning of where the journey that you start people with is that you get it. So talk about that just a little bit on because, even though we like to talk about, yes, this is what we've been through, it's in a lot of ways very vulnerable for us to share a lot of aspects of our journey, especially too because it does involve our relationship with our parents and all those things they're still alive. And so how did you begin to say, okay, I need to share about this aspect, and how to write about it, how to talk about it with the book, how to weave it into the book?
Well, when we got married in 2006 and we decided we were going to have a ministry emphasis that dealt with healing the broken heart, working through emotions, working through getting to the more heart of why we're struggling, right? Which is why we call it Turning Hearts. I found at first my naivety worked in my favor. And I'll explain to you what I mean. Because as I started experiencing healing, I was like, why wouldn't everyone else want this? Why wouldn't everyone want their families to be changed and their relationships? Why wouldn't they want to have freedom in their life and have breakthrough? And why wouldn't everybody want that? And I jumped out into the world with that kind of and I think it was good. I needed that because if I was obsessively checking the waters, I don't know, maybe I may have looked at things differently.
Right.
With excitement went, and then I realized, wow, people don't want to work on their vulnerable issues. And it was a little bit of a whiplash of wow, people in the church don't want to go there.
Yeah, a lot of people thought we were too much, which I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, trauma, drama, pain. You have a loving father who I didn't realize, I would teach on the Father's love, and that was overwhelming people because they're like, no, I don't want to deal with my father's issues.
Right.
I'd rather, can you do a class on prayer? Yeah,
Right.
Let's talk about praying to the Father. It's just, everything is kicking up. So,
that's
I felt
true.
I had a rude awakening that mental health is bringing out our emotional pain, our emptiness, our neglect, our struggles that a lot of people just don't want to deal with. I was even looking at some of my videos on YouTube just to kind of get a sense of what are some videos I could look at and kind of reevaluate that maybe I could do in future content stuff. And it's interesting, the videos that sometimes have the lower views, they often have these areas of things that you need to work on.
Right.
Right? And we're very resistant. We're very condemned. We have a lot of shame. So I'm at a point where I forgot the question you're asking, but
no, your personal journey of even
right.
OCD, coming to understand your own OCD, and even being okay to put it in the book.
So maybe at first I was somewhat obsessive about getting my story out in the sense of this freedom you want to tell everybody.
Yeah.
And I think over time I've had to learn to ground it a bit. But I feel that vulnerability is something that is tough, it's challenging. You get misunderstanding, you get a lot of opinions in mental health. As soon as you talk about it, you have these very strong opinions of people, of what they think. The Christians that don't think we should even talk about mental health. And then those people that are in it, it's this methodology. You need to understand this. And it's so then I'm on my journey helping others while also dealing with the kickback of all that. which some of it can like make it feel like it's hindering some of your mental health journey. So I've had to learn a lot through that. But I always feel like I've always felt that vulnerability is worth it, even though it's painful, even though a lot of times it doesn't work out. I've had a lot of churches, people, relationships where you go there, you take a step, and it doesn't really seem to work out. You plant a seed. And I have to remember that you're always planting seeds, and sometimes it doesn't land into great soil. I would walk away from those things going, something's wrong with me. So that was another layer of OCD I had to actually work through, is the post spin out. If I post a video, it doesn't get a lot of views, it would say something about me. You should have done this or done that. So I think, though, that I've come to terms with it's a beautiful place that I want to invite other people to live in, which is you're authentically sharing your journey, and Christians have to stop teaching like they've arrived. A lot of teachers out there appear like they've arrived, they know it all. The more someone acts like they know it all, the less I sometimes trust what they have to say sometimes, because they're on this like, I'm right, everyone else is wrong.
Or like we've watched a lot of, even major ministry figures go through very intense, life-changing things, and within a year they're writing a book about how they've come through.
Yeah, public pain that's very vulnerable. Yeah, I struggle with that.
Yeah.
I struggle with that, where it's like there's stuff going on in family, there's stuff going on in marriages, stuff going on with addictions, and they just want to get back into the pulpit. They just want to get back into, right? And I'm not condemning, but yet it's like these things take time, to heal and work through.
So, too, and I know this, but what I'm hearing you even say, too, is that we're not the most welcomed voice in the Christian world because of these things colliding, right? We want the vulnerability and the truth. We all want to see that, right? But there's an aspect of looking at yourself that's so tough and painful that people don't want to do. So in religious circles, we slap a lot of spirituality, religiosity, all those things on it to avoid looking at ourselves. So we kind of have an interesting position between the mental health world, the church world, spirit. It's very interesting where God has placed us. So I know I wasn't going to ask you this question, but how tough has that been on you to where do you fit? Because you kind of were just talking about that, but I want people to understand that more of what that's been for you, especially even writing this book.
At times I've not handled it well.
Yeah.
At times I've not handled it well, in the sense that it can be overwhelming, it can feel lonely. You're working through your own journey while also saying, you know what, I want to help others. My value system is I want to help others in a way that I wish I could have had help.
Right, you've said that a lot over the years.
And for me, I don't need to meet the person. Because growing up, a lot of my mentors were book writers and speakers. And I would just devour their material, right? And so I didn't have that, though, in this particular battleground. It was like, so anyone that would talk about anxiety or fear, I would latch onto it. And then I developed in my own journey understanding of how this stuff works and how it affects people. So we're pioneering a ground, because when we talk about these emotional issues, it can tend to get into people that share. There's a lot of hashtag vulnerability being shared, right? But there can be a lot of unproductive, sometimes blaming, shaming. And I find that we're healing, the sweet spot of healing is recognizing what's happened to you in your life, but also recognizing personal responsibility, where I have an empowerment to recognize in my own life areas where I can heal and grow and overcome. And I think with OCD, the tendency is the problem is this issue out here. It's my salvation. It's cleanliness. It's it's this sin issue. It's relationship. It's conflict. It's these disturbances out here, right? And I realized in relationship OCD, for example, I had to come to terms. It's not the ladies.
Right.
It's not them, because the obsession would make it how I felt disturbed about this relationship and this. And the day I gained sobriety was, no, the problem is not the problem. And that has carried so much of what I do in ministry work, is that it's not what you're making it. It's not this here. It's a deeper heart issue that needs realignment. Well, people tend to keep spinning in those things. And they say, well, give me a quick fix and all that. So me navigating this, I've had to allow the journey, and a lot of my material now is got the word journey in it. It's focused on journey, because that's what it is. And I am on my journey of, even right now as we're talking, having this discussion, what does it look like with someone who has pastoral experience, ministry experience, teaching experience, but who speaks right into mental health, psychological battles. I'm very confident in that. I've had a lot of work in that, but it's not necessarily a part of church life. It's a separate issue, right? It's like mental health is over here. And I'm like, no, it's not. Mental health is everywhere, and everyone's involved in it. So we tend to look at it, oh, that person has mental health problems. Oh, and you don't? You snap off and get angry all the time. You have this addiction issue. Right, come on. So I feel like I've been trying to level the playing field, that all of us need work in these areas. It's just a matter of working through the fears, because people are afraid of going there with these subjects. They're afraid of going into it and really rolling up their sleeves, because it's I don't want to deal with my mom and dad issues or how I was raised, or So anyway.
Well, that's good. No, it's good. Okay, so I want to make some commentary and then ask you a question. So we've been together over almost 18 years, a little over 18 years, married, 17 years this year. And in watching your journey of book writing, it's been pretty interesting. Because Mark, the one thing that I don't know how much people, they watch you, they see, Mark's like an amazing student, researcher. You're very diligent to learn. From the moment that I met you, you absorb everything. And then if you see something, you're like, I want to know more. I mean, it's like any topic, dirt. You're the simpleness of just
dirt
coming here, and yard working, and growing grass, and the dirt, and what kind of, and what do you got, any topic that you're okay, I want to do that, or I want to understand that, or someone triggers something, and you research it. The amount of book he reads and studies, and it's just been fascinating to watch this progression of even your book writing, and how much your writing has even just gotten just so much better. It's amazing to watch. And so even though that's in you, and your progression of each book, and we have them all here, and the new one, what's been the toughest part of this book? Because I've watched you in each stage of the journey, and you've poured out the rejection and loving yourself and heart healing. But what was the toughest part for this book?
That I've entered the arena of mental health fully.
Fully. There it is, everybody.
Fully. Yeah, that I put both feet in it. These books, yes, it talks about anxiety. Yes, it talks about it. But it's this was we're going there.
Right. Okay. So that even helps in my language of it, because it's all these are church Christian themes, right? Of heart healing, and we can relate to them.
Right.
But yes, that's a great answer, right? This is you. So how scary is that?
Years ago, it was frightening.
Yeah.
And then, because I have a lot of pastoral training, church training, and one-on-one training, and my own life training. But when you enter into this realm, people are what's your credentials?
Right. Well, I was going to ask that.
Yeah.
How much is that obsessive compulsively pinging you.
Yeah, we'll want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to. And this is where you have to learn to trust the grace of God,
Yeah.
because he uses sometimes the untrained. I mean, they even talked about the disciples. They were called unlearned people, right? Who are these unlearned guys? So I'm not disrespecting anyone's official training.
Correct.
But then the more I started talking about this, the more counselors were contacting me saying, hey, I use your books for material. I'm using your videos. I'm recommending people. I've had feedback of people high level training and respected in their field. Even centers that take in obsessives. They're like, yeah, that guy's not trained, but he knows what he's talking about.
Right.
Okay, that's an interesting grace on my life, because I could look, and there were times where I'm like, maybe I should go back to school. Maybe I should go and get all that.
Yeah.
Now I do walk through, like you said, I do a lot of research. I avail myself to a lot of courses and training and stuff.
Yeah, because I don't there is a part that I don't think people understand, that aspect of you in, I don't want to say in the legitimacy of who you are, but there is an element of that as your wife, I want people to know that you're not just coming up with stuff and throwing it out there and hoping it sticks against the wall. Like, you put your heart and soul into everything that you do.
Yeah, and I think what's happened in my journey, God is redeeming the obsessive tendencies in my life.
Yeah.
Because in obsession, you're chasing a disturbance. Whereas in what you're talking about, I'm immersing myself in something that is delightful.
Right.
Where it's like and clinicians have chuckled when I've said this, I'll read the DSM-5 manual, which is considered like the Bible of psychology. It's kind of what they hold as a standard to evaluation. And I'll look at it and I'll pick up on things and extract them. And I go, this is an interesting observation. Mm-hmm. Okay, God. And I see things in the scriptures that bring that
correlate
out. That correlate. So then the process that works is I first let it work through my life. Does this make sense? Is this simple? Is this applicable? Mm-hmm. Does this bring life? Does it bring truth? And I'll write it, document, I ponder it, I live it out. Then I share it with you. Mm-hmm. This is what I'm learning, this is where I'm going, right?
He does. Mm-hmm.
Then if the kids, if it's where they're at and they can, I'll share with them too. But then in my one-on-ones, I kind of drop it in there, and field tests like, hey, what do you think about this? Because I'm noticing this. I've noticed this in my journey. This has helped me. What do you think? And it's like, boom, boom, it's opening up things, right? Simple things. Like even concepts of self-acceptance or compassion, patience and kindness, those kind of principles, or just a lot of the things that I've worked out, where I go, this doesn't seem to be working. Mm-hmm. Okay. Is it because A, I just need to give him more time, which is usually true, or B, do I need to step back for a little bit, kind of reassess? So I think that then forms so that when it gets to, by the time it gets to a book, it's gone through that. It's gone through videos. It's gone through
working with people and yourself and us. Yeah. Yeah.
So my emphasis now is more enhanced versus 15 years ago, 16 years ago, and I think that anyone who teaches stuff, because I do hear pastors or Christians talk about areas that you could say, well, that's mental health, but they talk about it from just an observational view. They haven't met with people and worked this out. They haven't sat down with people with trauma. And in fact, many people who criticize mental health, have you ever sat down with somebody who's been through massive childhood trauma, been abused their whole life, and now they're limping through life, and you're just throwing some scriptures at them, telling them to pray more, and they're drowning in discouragement because there isn't like boots on the ground of like, what does this look like to actually navigate?
Right. Which was really the formation of our church, because we were going, okay, there's a lot of people that just aren't getting free and getting help.
When we had a church,
like, okay,
right? Yeah. Yeah, because we saw people. They were sheep without a shepherd. They were massively traumatized people, neglected.
Yeah. Really, we needed a center. Well, we needed a lot
Well, for a
of
while,
things back then.
for a while, I was wondering if I was
think that,
I was going
yeah.
to open up a center.
Yeah.
And then that just wasn't in the cards for our journey.
Yeah, then we realized how difficult that would be. So those of y'all that do that, bless your hearts, because you need a lot of, Okay, so to tag on kind of what you were saying too about people, you've made an interesting statement too in understanding the journey of OCD to me several times. And it goes back to like the genesis of where we've come from through a lot of things of ministering to people and, the early days of us having people to our house. I just had Max and your whiteboard teaching. I mean, we're talking, we had people in our house for hours.
Yeah.
We got a baby and we're trying to make ends meet. And just your diligence to help people. And you've made this statement to me a couple times in where you've gone to the next level of understanding OCD. Wow, Missy, so-and-so had OCD. Wow, like you've, in understanding this and in looking at things over the past, recognizing, okay, that was OCD. And listen, not to say that trying to cast stuff out or help people, all those things were great.
Yeah.
But you have come to understand this topic at a whole new level.
Yeah.
And in working with people. So, but I've seen your frustrations too. I've seen where, you're trying to like bring this illumination. So what has been your biggest frustration in trying to shed light on this topic in the church world?
People have very blanket silver bullet opinions that they just throw out there over things. You have those that are like the demon obsessed.
Yep.
All mental health is a demon, cast it out. And so I don't negate that.
Right.
There's a very heavy spiritual battle, but that approach negates relationship healing. Like it's not just get something out and you're fine. It is every approach that people take often lacks a journey mindset to it. So it's very like get the demon out, or it's you're not saved enough. So everything goes back to salvation. Hey, people would just get born again. Well, that's making people more obsessive. Then there's
that's true.
Then there's these just kind of blanket approaches that show people haven't given it thought. And they haven't been in the trenches, because being in the trenches of helping people humbles you.
Yes.
It humbles you to realize, whoa, I don't know a whole lot. I don't care if you're a PhD doctor, which sometimes those credentials can create a sense of like, I should know everything. Right? In God's kingdom, it's like his currency is humility. And I think a part of it, at first I felt like I got answers. I know stuff. And then I'm working day in and day out with people. And I'm like, okay, this is tough. What I'm going through is tough. What they're going through is tough. So I think that there's a lot of, I have a lot of respect for people that do day in and day out work with people. It's hard. Yeah. It's difficult. And we're all trying to grow while helping others. But I think that you mentioned awareness of OCD, right? I think that I have to patiently bring awareness to how this battleground affects people, because I've come to a conviction that a larger percentage than we realize are obsessive-compulsive. There's two topics that have helped me understand my history better at home and in the church. One is narcissism.
Yes.
Okay? Narcissism has helped me to understand, and I believe that topic is biblical. I can show it biblically.
Right.
That has helped. Oh, that person was a narc. Right. I didn't see it.
It's been huge for us. Yeah.
The second is obsessive-compulsive, and Christianity, I feel, can be a vacuum for obsessive-compulsive, because we are believers in Christ. We're believers in what's right and wrong, but if that isn't loved on and filled with grace, you're prone to being very compulsive.
And if it's based on rules. If your salvation is based on rules, go ahead, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Right, if your salvation is based on a legalistic rule pattern that you got to keep, so you have a relationship with God based on alleviating disturbance. Oh God, I come to you. I'm so sorry. That's your basis. God, you're constantly fielding stuff you gotta fix, right? So that person may not be like, and some people are like, do I need a diagnosis? Do you need a diagnosis if what I'm telling you makes sense to what you struggle with? Because people are writing to me saying, I don't have OCD. But what you're saying makes sense that we need a better relationship with our thoughts. We're very anxious ridden in how we relate to our thoughts. We're manic how we relate to our thoughts. You may not be manic depressive, bipolar, but you tend to approach things that you need to feel this certain thing with God. I gotta feel this, I gotta feel passion, I gotta be in, and then you see people on YouTube, you gotta give yourself fully and be in love with Christ.
Right.
And we're like, yes, I need to feel that too. And why don't I feel that? And it's like, whoa, calm down, everyone.
Right. Yeah.
Right? That's my mom's Norwegian side. Calm down. Calm down, Mark.
Calm down.
Calm down.
Yep.
So I think that this has been a real journey of us. Mental health is not a category in its own. Now I use it. The only reason I use mental health as a term is because it's there.
Yeah.
And that's what people, right? Mental health is life. Mental health is emotions. Mental health is relationship. So every human being, I'm talking to subjects that relate to every human being. And so there are occasional churches that go, okay, today we're going to talk about mental health, right? It's like that category we're going to talk about. When you look at the average congregation, majority of it is struggling with anxiety, a large percentage depression, which many of them don't even realize it.
Right.
Addictions. Whew. And many Christians go, yeah, we have a few people that go to Overcomers Outreach or they go to Celebrate Recovery. No, you need what they're talking about.
Right.
Just because your addictions are more sophisticated, right?
Shame.
I've just got started and I've covered marriage problems, right? So to me, I look at the body of Christ and I go, dude, all these people that they can't even hear the sermon that you're talking about on the 3 reasons why we should tithe. They can't even hear what you're talking about because they're in a war on a regular basis in their minds, right? So that was frustrating, which is like, when we stepped out of like being pastors in that role and did our church work in that kind of way, it was like we need to get the word out to whoever's going to be willing to go. No, this is about heart transformation. This is about emotions. This is about dealing with life. Jesus is all about healing of the broken heart, binding up the wounds, deliverance to captivity. That's all relational.
Right.
So we're in the middle of a climate of modern church productivity and achievement, focused on the main focus of church life is getting bigger, getting more resources, more finances, having an effective platform. Big equals success. What I'm talking about is leading people to go smaller. Like, look at the person right next to you.
Right.
Make time and room because we need to grow in how we relate to each other. Slow down, right? So a lot of the metrics I'm bringing are counter to what we're doing. So it frustrates the system. So I'm kind of on the outside of the organized system speaking like, hey, let's get back to the simplicity of love, of what it means to have effective relationships,
Yeah.
So anyway, that's
good.
That's a bunch of tangents.
I think it's good. Well, no, because it kind of leads into my next thought and question that you and I have talked about a lot in regards to OCD and like what's your biggest frustration with that? And the word avoidance comes up a lot, and I want you to like expound on that for people.
So when you put something together as a teaching, right? There's a lot of, like, there's things that you'll do, certain titles you put to things, right? Because you want people to to watch your content or view it, right? Everybody does this. You
Right.
have a little title, you have a little thing, and some of it's marketing, some of it's salesy, whatever.
Yeah.
Everybody does it to an extent, right? 'Cause you're trying to pull people in to talk about something. OCDers have an avoidance issue where they see something, and unless they're currently spinning, they don't want to go there. So they'll see this book float on by. They have OCD, and they avoid it because it's going to trigger them. They're afraid it's going to trigger them into an anxious state. So their life is a life of avoidance. They avoid that person. Oh, that sermon. Oh, that thing. Oh, my goodness. Right? They avoid the topic because it'll trigger them. Then when they are triggered, they're just trying to get out of it as quick as they can. So people write to me, I need help, I need help, I need help. And they write, and then by the time I've written back, they've already been on another subject. They're already somewhere else. Right. They're not even in that anymore.
Right.
And so it becomes challenging to stabilize. Like, listen, you need to buckle up for a journey.
Right.
That's sober, right? But OCDers, like I did, have a tendency to go-kart, like boom, boom, bounce all over the place.
Like that person that's up at 2:00 in the morning spinning about whatever. They find your stuff. They see you do counseling, coaching. They email you. You write back, okay, this is it.
They're over it.
Then 2 or 3 days later, they come down thinking, oh, I'm good.
Because if I meet with somebody, it's going to make me anxious.
Or they go, okay, I went through that, I feel a little bit better. Meanwhile, then it comes up 5, 10, whatever, 20 days later, or whatever, I'm just throwing numbers out. And they're mailing you again, hey, remember when I contacted? And you're like...
Yeah, I have a timer on my watch
funny.
Where somebody goes, I'm doing good. Yeah, 2 meetings, or they read 1 chapter, got 1 video. I'm doing good. I think I'm good, right? And I'm like, okay, hit the timer. 3 months later, oh, Mark, I realized that I need to. And it's okay. It's okay because I had to go through that, but it's not sobriety. Sobriety is when I realize, See, I didn't realize until we were into marriage how much OCD really affected me. I was like, I just have this relational area. Yeah. Really, it's in a bunch of areas. Just one of the topics got center stage. And as I really walked through the fear factor of it, faced it, walked through healing, which I don't see healing as like you perfectly arrive.
Right.
That's another thing too, is people are like, yeah, I had OCD when I was a teenager and I'm over it. I'm past that now. And it's like, okay, I already know what's coming. It's
and
like,
then they give you the litany of stuff that they're currently struggling with and you're like...
That's OCD, yeah. Right? So on one hand, I'm not trying to diagnose people. On another hand, I'm not trying to doom people. But the journey of mental health it is not... one day I'm just all better and everything's just magical. It's such a journey of learning, and we all have our stages of sobering up. And for me, like when I saw you look at me a few times and go, Mark, it was to some extent this. You need to knock it off. You know what I'm talking about?
Or you saw the look of like, I want to hurt you right now. Stop. Yeah.
Yeah, like I see the drain in your face.
Yes, we have that, people.
OCDers don't pick up on that necessarily.
Right.
They keep going. So I just...
Yeah.
There was a moment of sobriety where I go, oh, I see the effect it's having on you.
Yeah.
This isn't good. Not in a condemnation shame. It was awakening.
Right.
I need to be more aware of how I'm a compulsive oversharer. I'm a compulsive confessor. I follow disturbance everywhere it shows up.
Okay, good. So stay on that point, and so let's get just to some practical things. Y'all need to get the book, but let's just get to some practical things for someone to recognize that they may be under the influence of OCD and have some signs and symptoms of OCD. You named a couple. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I kind of want to just bring that up a little bit.
Some of them can be observed when someone, the way they talk about a subject, where when they express it, you feel their disturbance. There's like a body posture. There's like that look in their eyes. It's almost like they're not blinking. It's like...
Right. Okay, wait a minute. I want to stop you for 1 second because I just want to say this one statement because I know I was like this. We associate OCD with cleanliness.
Right. Yeah.
And I really want to...
That's the first hurdle we have to get over.
We have to,
It's about any subject.
Like an OCD person would want to take these books, typical old school thinking of OCD.
Right.
Oh, these all need to be in order
Right.
and be perfectly lined up, and now I'll feel better.
Is it?
Is everything lined up? Which we're not. Maybe I should move in. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
Right. I thought that. And I think that was kind of the understanding of obsessive compulsive is if you needed things to just be so in a cleanliness or touching, I got to tap something, we had that kind of basic understanding. Your book touches on that, but there's so much more here that I want people to understand of like the mindset of how a lot of us are operating with obsessive compulsive. So I just wanted to throw that in there as a caveat.
If I went back to day one, when I first saw a clinical psychologist, I started with asking pastoral help, then, like in church counseling avenues. And then I said, okay, I got to find more help. Day one should have been like, have you ever been told you're obsessive compulsive?
Right.
That would have, I think it's interesting too, a lot of clinicians don't pick up on it. Because I replay some of the highlights of how neurotic I was about, I got this thing and I gotta, I need.
Right, where you've joked and you've mentioned this, people likened your life to like a Seinfeld episode in a lot of ways of the, yes.
Yeah, which I write in the book.
Yes.
That was one of the things that was told to me. It was rough. That was harsh. But I had to forgive him. But true.
Yeah.
But true, because every Seinfeld episode, they never actually live. It's all chasing disturbance.
Right, and Jerry always had issues with women over some obsessive thing.
Correct.
Like, wasn't there one where in certain light the lady looked ugly and certain lights she looked pretty and he would obsess about it?
Yeah.
That episode just stuck out to me, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that with people that I meet with or talk to, I can pick up on the tendencies. I'm not here to diagnose anybody. That's not my thing, but I can say, hey, those things, you can have an influence of something without having to be, am I diagnosed? I think we need to see mental health on a spectrum versus you've got it.
Right.
Right? Because
that's
now
good.
this gets into another thing, because we live in a system that bases mental health on just pure medication metrics. So it's like, get an official diagnosis. Here's your medication. That's kind of the route. I talk about medication. I'll talk more about it in other broadcasts. But if people see it as a spectrum, like you don't have to have every single characteristic of clinical depression, but you have a number of those that you relate to, then insights about how to work through depression are helpful for you, right? Whether it's going through a season of it or going through, you feel like you've had it all your life or whatever. So I think that when it came to OCD, I didn't see it, and clinicians didn't even bring it up. So I think there's been an evolving awareness of it. I think that pastors see it. If I sit down with a pastor, they have people in their congregation where they try to open up their Bible and share with them the answers. And then the next time they're back, they're spinning again and spinning again and spinning again. They have like a heavy guilt conscience, or they have, and then I notice people too who, this is another category, because our son is, where I interacted with people in the autism spectrum. Yeah. And I noticed their black and white obsessive-compulsive pattern. I saw that way back before I even knew what it was or knew, how it affected people. But anyways, we were talking about What were we talking about again? I do forget the question.
That someone would even have OCD to maybe self-recognize. Like you were saying in relation with you and I grew up where we've shared this on previous podcasts. I had what would be the typical growing up. I had I had to touch certain things. I had to like wash certain ways. I had that kind of OCD. It morphed into different ways of being obsessive compulsive, but my journey had started out like that.
Right.
Most people consider OCD to be that, but it's way deeper than that.
Mm-hmm.
And even looking at it, so many things in the church, whatever. Religious OCD, relationship OCD, people don't recognize they have it. So what would be some good things to look at yourself and go, I might be OCD?
Well, when you and I would talk in the early stages, there's a couple terms I would sometimes throw at you because she's my wife and I love her with all my heart, but I'm also not your counselor. I don't, right? That's not a good mix to like start.
Correct.
Like, okay, so, but we do have conversations.
Yes.
And I do, and you'll ask me, and obsessive compulsive and perfectionism had resistance. You're like, no, you're a perfectionist, not me. And it's like, because it's my conviction that all OCD has perfectionism in it.
Yeah, I had a very hard time with that word. Yeah.
It's there. It's and it's in everything.
I didn't really realize I didn't realize how perfectionism worked. Yeah.
So if to talk to Christians and say, okay, let's take the mental health lingo and put it aside for a second.
Yep.
Okay? How much of Christianity in our walk is spent sin-focused, sin management,
God's will focused,
all around disturbance. I got it. I don't feel close to God. I feel like, did I maybe these things that we've become trained in Christianity, at least in my experience and a lot of other people, we've been trained to chase disturbance. Like, the pastor goes, every head bowed, every eye closed. Are you truly right with God? Now, many of the people in the congregation get what he's saying. There's some in the congregation that go, I need to give my life to Christ. There's a segment.
good portion.
There's a segment that go, am I don't know, wait, check. Am I really? I don't know.
And look at little things and go, oh no, I wasn't kind to that person. I mean, they like,
Yep.
I talk to my mother disrespectfully a lot, like, no, I'm not right with God. Like start looking at things in intense ways that their right standing with God is based on like.
Right. So what preachers often don't realize is you're asking people to confirm their assurance. When many people grew up with no sense of safety, they have complex trauma in their life. Oh wait, I said I was going to take mental health and put it aside. Okay, I can do that. I can do that. They've grown up with where their emotions haven't been equipped. They haven't been discipled in how to work through tough days, hard times. We see discipleship as, do you know Romans this? Do you know the Romans road? Do you have your theology on salvation down? Have you read through the whole Bible? Do you know how to answer these theological questions? That's not the heart of discipleship. Yes, Bible reading is important, all of that, but it's heart. It's walking with people. It's teaching them. It's in real life, like bringing out those things, right? So we're asking these assurance questions to people who they've had so much emotional damage in their upbringing, they have no record of safety. Correct. So you're asking them to land in safety into something that they're like, now they're checking. So, for example,
it's really good.
Many people who grew up with a question I ask off the jump with OCDers. Tell me the addict history in your family, because OCD really jumps out of a coping mechanism from addict history. Both of us have that factor.
Yes, we do.
And I discovered that pattern right off the jump because I am a student of patterns. I tend to pick up patterns. And it's very rare that I don't see someone where addictions has been in their history, right? And so we have people growing up, adult children of alcoholics. It's that's even a teaching resource, right? I'll use that term. We're asking many of them, do you know that you know that you know today? And they have a history where they don't know what they know about anything. And now they're being like pigeonholed, right? Then there's people that are like, no, there's no addictions in my family. And as you dig in, the dad had a hidden porn problem.
Right.
Right? Or he was an absolute workaholic.
Right.
Oh, no, that's an okay addiction, right? Same kind of pathway of dopamine reward, lack of self-control, all that, right? So I think that if going back to your question of how do you identify, it's as I'm sharing this and as I'm talking about this, if you relate to many of the examples that I bring out, I just found for me, and when I shared this with other people, our Christian life is based on chasing disturbance. And that's a word that I bring to center stage because I like to keep it simple. So what you'll find in my book is I have these anchors. Like I took those distortions, I'm like, these are the 7 distortions that make it up, that make up OCD, right? But there's these anchors of things that we can recognize. And I use the word disturbance. You have an anxious disturbance that you chase to make yourself feel better, right? Cleanliness is not an OCD, is not a mental health issue. Order is not a mental health issue, unless it's disturbance. If like right now in front of me, there's some wires in our studio that my mind could pick up. Those could be straightened, right? Is straightening it a compulsion?
No.
If it's not, and it's getting in the way of me listening to you.
Correct.
Because that's what obsessors do.
I can't, like, you're like, where'd you go? Where are you?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because you can't be present in the moment.
Right, because I'm like, I got to go do this first or I won't feel right. I got to go get this done until I can, then I'll be able to be, then I'll be okay.
Which then would trigger my rejection issues.
Yes.
You're not listening.
It's a bad ping pong, people.
And now I just wait. I go.
And then what's funny is the times where we'll be talking and I just get up and walk away. Like, I gotta go.
Right.
Oh, Lord.
And then there were times where I would talk and I knew you weren't paying attention. And then I would take the story really dark.
He would.
And I would go, and by the way, life isn't worth living.
He would get to death. You would get to death sometimes.
Life isn't worth living. I know. Okay, if you can't take this humor,
Yeah.
whatever. But I would start joking. Yeah, life just isn't worth living anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do.
And I'm like, And I'm not there.
And I'm like,
You're like,
I'm like, I got
and then you're like, what did I just say? And I'm like,
yeah.
Yep. It was bad.
So I think that what's the predominant issue that gives you like distress on a regular basis? Is it surrounded by obsessive compulsive? Now, some people just have generalized anxiety over life,
Right.
or they have a specific anxiety
Right.
over something. And that, every time that happens, right, they might be afraid of snakes. They might have a phobia, right? Which my first encounter with a snake created a lot of fear. So I knew some lessons on exposure therapy on how to deal with that. But I think, you can go online and you can look up certainly characteristics. But I think a lot of Christians, they have a life of disturbance, they're trying to fix disturbance, and they have a life of projecting fear. Oh my goodness, my mom was an alcoholic. That means I'm going to be an alcoholic. My mom was schizophrenic. Oh, I had a weird thought. That means I'm schizophrenic, right? We get off the rails,
Yeah.
which is what I call a lack of emotional sobriety.
Yeah.
OCD prevents you from emotional sobriety. To see it for what it is, put it in context, everybody's losing context. So the struggle is that if you're disturbed over your salvation, there's like 10 trillion websites.
It's true.
Are you sure you're a Christian?
Gosh.
Stay
away from them. Stop going to those websites.
They mean well.
They do, but you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of those guys, they can, and gals, they can, as I would say, they can make the wallpaper on the wall peel off by how harsh they are, too.
Right. Like I was sharing with you, I had found, I was up at having a hot flash in the middle of the night, my lovely stage of life. So I end up on YouTube, and a guy comes into my feed that is a young kid, and he is bashing one of the big ministries out there. I mean, but he's just very sweet, young kid, and he is just the litany of every single thing that this ministry does wrong. And so I'm like, I'm interested to see what the comment section says. These people are not, they're only inviting all the people that agree with them. They're not changing people's minds or helping people.
No.
Like a lot of these things, and a lot of these sites are, do you know you're saved? Like,
right.
This stuff is just condemning.
It is condemning. It is condemning, and it's not making room for realizing how much people are spinning. And a lot of those commenters were feeding the self-hate that we have in our own lives of how hard we are on ourselves. We're verifying it and validating it by how hard we are on other people.
Right, like they need to get right.
Because like the ministry you're talking about in that video, because I know what you're talking about, I've actually met and been around many of those people. I get what their journey has been. There's a lot of stuff, because it is interesting to me how much, and it's getting off topic, how much people criticize other ministries that they actually haven't really even been a part of.
Right.
That's one. And it is interesting how people can obsessive-compulsively make their focus chasing disturbance in other Christians, right? So like, it's important that we talk about the problems that people have, but get to the heart and provide direction for what life looks like. If many Christians are obsessive compulsive about just finding flaws in people and finding faults. I remember being around them.
Yeah.
Where like I didn't have my Bible in my hand, or you got to sit a certain way, or you got to, or I was chewing gum.
Well,
which I do chew gum loudly, so it's a problem. But it wasn't because of that. It was because I had
oh gosh,
had gum, and I was just visiting, and I was like, I'm so sorry. And I got them. I was like, all right, easy. I'll put the gum away.
Yeah. Mark thinks he's alone when he chews gum when he's not alone.
Yeah. I have a cow chewing-itis.
Yeah, someone did say to you one time, you were in the car with them. And because this was an issue between you and I'm like, bro, with the gum chewing, and you were kind of like, it's my problem that I have an issue with how loud you were chewing, because I was upset, and you kind of were like, this is interesting because it kind of surrounds OCD, that it was like my obsessive compulsive problem, that I was irritated by your chewing. You were like, it's your problem, and
which there is
an aspect.
There is an aspect. But I was in denial.
I do have misophonia. That's what it's called. But
okay. But I was in denial about how loud
you were, and then you were in the car with somebody doing ministry travel.
Yeah, we were traveling to speaking at churches, and we were in the car, and he was like, "Bro, you got to get it together."
You actually laughed when you called me. You're like, he told me that I was like a cow chewing its cud.
Yeah,
and I was like, thank you, Jesus. You used this. No.
So. Which brings me to an important point, not about you, but just in general. OCDers, we spiral in shame when we have correction brought.
Yes, this is a good point.
That's why I'm so good at talking about shame attacks. People are like, I feel like you're reading my mind. I'm going, dude, I've been there. I know what this like tornado looks like.
Right, because there's a pride stamp of, no, what I'm thinking is right. Just help me work it out. But what I'm thinking is right. Yeah.
It's survival, it's resistance, it's stubbornness.
Yeah.
There is this issue is the problem. And many have to go through the stats. I think the stat says, I think it's in my book, I think it says the average takes 17 years before they'll actually go and get help. We'll have to verify that. It's in the book.
Wow.
Sometimes stats fade in my thinking. Why is that? Because we spend many years living it, validating it, verifying it, No, I need to do this. I need to keep my area clean because clean's important. No, I need to keep my spirituality
Well,
right
like
because
for
God.
me, it became part of my identity of like,
Right.
yeah.
Until we see we lose a marriage, you see it in your kids. You lose a job.
Yeah.
You see friendships going. Oh, dude, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Right? Because we spiral so much. We need healthy, sober recognition, and that was a change for me because I'd always go into self-pity. I'd always go into woe is me, and you're being too mean, and we have that in society, right? And there are people that are mean, they're yellers, they're condemners, right? But the answer is not, just lovey-dovey. We never have to deal with anything. It's part of love is like, okay, I got a problem,
Yeah.
and I had to realize that. And it's not something you can fix or anyone else. It's something that I need to learn and work through.
So good. All right. So, what do you want the one thing for people to read this book and get?
I could cry.
Yeah.
I want them to know they're loved.
Yep.
And they're lacking love so badly.
Yeah.
They're lacking a connection to love more than they even realize.
Yeah.
They're traumatized, they're neglected,
Yeah.
they're alone, they're isolated,
Yeah.
and you at times feel like you're crazy. Some people are inpatient, they're in they've checked themselves into the ER,
Yep.
right? Because they're like, I'm gonna do what this thought is saying.
Yeah. They're scared of themselves.
That
They're
was
scared of the
that which
world.
reminds me. You were talking about how you know you have obsessive compulsive at least tendencies. The thoughts are often very intrusive.
Yeah.
They like seem to barge in out of nowhere. Because I was thinking about people I've met with. I just came out of the ER. I checked myself in because I had these thoughts. They were so bad. Is to know that there's love available and that love hasn't been shown to you, so it's foreign. And the language of love is not the language of an obsessor's pathway. An obsessor's pathway is like, I got to know the data, I got to know the 5 points, give me it's these metrics. Love is different. Because love says, I'm here.
Yeah.
Love says, you're safe. Love says, come into relationship. And it blows an obsessor's mind that the God of creation, who is perfectly holy, so gloriously holy that if anyone really got near it, right, we would be overwhelmed.
Right.
We couldn't handle it. Has at the same time this eternal, loving, merciful, compassionate, kind love that says, be with me. That's been the story of my journey. I grew up in the church. I said the sinner's prayer, got baptized, got the Holy Ghost, all of it.
Right.
Got involved, did everything that they asked. And I did not have a connection to the love that the Father had for me. Does it negate my salvation? No. I know where the spinners are going.
Right.
Where the spinners are going.
Right.
They no,
Right.
it didn't negate any of my journey, but it revealed the significant foundation that I needed. So I think that to know that they're loved. I'd like to turn the question to you.
Oh. Okay.
What's an aspect of this message that you wish people understood, maybe behind the scenes or what you've observed in my life or observed with us, that you wish people understood? Or
I mean, your answer was so perfect about understanding love. I think I've brought this out in other topics that we've discussed, is to understand your journey and to be kind to your journey and understanding even where this is an aspect of your life. That's been a big thing for me. You've said that to me a lot over the years.
and you've said it to me.
Yeah.
And you've
To be kind
responded.
to
You've
yourself.
responded to my tough seasons. Mark, you're on a journey.
Yeah. Because I've been to the point, I know what it's like to spin in things, and you feel like, with where I've battled with OCD, to want to just rip my own skin off my face of spinning so bad.
Yeah.
I have family members on medication because OCD is so intense in their life. We've seen it up front, we've experienced it, and there is an element to just being kind to yourself that you didn't get here overnight. That this is a process of the tapestry of your whole life, of your upbringing, how you've processed relationship. And I want to just say that I feel that all your books encompass that, but that this book, I think, really lays out so beautifully that journey. You do such a good job in each chapter of even pulling that out. In anywhere even when you're doing the distortions and all of that, you do such a good job of laying out the journey of, like, people didn't get here overnight and what it all entails.
Yep.
And whether you yourself have obsessive compulsive or I feel like it's important too to understand, if you have someone in your life, a child, a spouse, a family member, to get this book and to understand it and get the materials. Because I think, as you and I have been understanding this and walking this out in our own life, we're looking and going, I think the majority of the population has an element of this in their life. Mm-hmm. And if we can understand it and how to interact with it, not only for ourselves, but for everyone around us, I think it would just be so powerful.
Yep.
So that's my 2 cents. Is there anything else that you want to encourage people?
No, I appreciate you having this conversation with me, and I want to bring a lot of background and perspective to what this process has been, because we're really trying to, my journey is really long-term, is to develop resources and materials that will even live after I'm gone.
Yep.
That will be a library for people to process, so that they have a focus the Holy Spirit can use to bring about how they can experience freedom in their life and their journey.
Yeah. So everyone, please go to Amazon. You can do Kindle, audio, hardcover. We are so excited about this
and
book.
paperback.
And paperback, sorry, yes. Get this book, share this book. We have so many free resources. You're putting out things on the chapters and on understanding. Yeah. We're going to be doing a membership site where there's going to be deeper things of you to even interact with people that we're excited. That's going to be upcoming. So pray for us. We are just so blessed by the people that support our community and have loved on us. We were just even speaking this morning. God has really had us in a special place, and we've been in a lot of ways, dare I use the word, like, protected. Yeah, we have some people that jump in that are, but, like, we have a very special tribe, and we see those of you that call yourselves that with us, and we're super grateful, and we just want to say thank you.
Thank you very much.
So thank you for supporting this book, and hope you all have a great day.
Lord willing.
And the creek don't rise.
Is your brother from another mother.
And your sister from another mister.
Saying, we're out.
Thank you, everyone.